All right, let's. I always hate starting live. Rah, rah, rah. Why am I yelling? No one's here. So I'm just literally talking to myself right now. All right, we're going to get started in a second. This is an interesting study, and the reaction to it was really interesting. And I'm going to clear some things up today, which is going to be a lot of fun. All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, someone actually could watch this later while you're recording. So um, let's jump in. Welcome to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. I am your host, Craig Pera, the founder of the Mindful Habit System. And for over the past decade, we've been helping men break free from sex addiction and porn addiction, and to help them and their partners lead healthy lives, to create healthy sexuality and a great life. And we believe that those two things are inexorably intertwined. What I want to talk about today, and if you're here watching me live, awesome, welcome. And if you're not, you can join me live if you follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Twitter or X. So we're going to talk about a study that was released. It caught some news, and the study, the article headline, the article in CNN was yelling at your kids is the same as physical sexual abuse. So that kind of got picked up because it was a shitty headline. And so what I want to do today is to clarify what that study said and why it's so important for healthy sexuality and a great life. Why understanding this is so important to creating healthy sexuality and a great life. And here's why: because verbal abuse is impactful. In fact, and we'll talk about what verbal abuse is. And what it isn't is yelling. So I'll start with the punchline, and then we'll jump in. And if you're here, please jump in the chat, ask me questions. But verbal abuse has lasting impact throughout a child's life, creating underlying emotional, psychological repercussions, including increased risks of anger, depression, substance abuse, self-harm, and obesity. These are some of my clients, some of my awesome clients. Self-harm, for many guys, this behavior has crossed the threshold into self-harm, depression, anger, obesity, right? Obesity, part of that reward mechanism. So this is highly relevant, highly relevant. And here's how. And so this is for guys, right? I was thinking of who is this particular video for? And of course, it's for everybody. But this is for the guy who is listening, maybe new to recovery, and welcome. Sorry you're here. Glad you're here. And it's like, listen, man, I keep hearing about all this family of origin bullshit. My therapist keeps asking me questions about my past. And what I read says I should be, reflecting on what happened. Nothing untoward sexually happened. Like my dad screamed at me, but, my mom screamed at me, whatever. But come on, it wasn't physical abuse. It wasn't sexual abuse. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't like physical, mental, emotional, and neglect. It didn't apply to any one of those areas. And so, typically those guys in therapy, the therapist will, okay, you're right, let's move on. We don't do that. And we don't do that because we know with every guy, there's a reason why he does what he does. There's a story. All of our parts have origin stories. And so for that guy who says nothing to see here, well, that makes me even more challenged. And so we get from, and what I explain to these guys is don't look at trauma. Put that word out of your head. Don't think about it that way, because that's going to color, like what you experienced didn't rise to that level that meets that threshold. um, Physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, neglect. Put that away. Trauma, abuse away. Think impact. Impact, right? What was the impact? And so, what I want to do in this video is share some of that impact, share this study, and give you a technique that can help you better understand that impact. And understanding that impact is critical to moving forward, right? Because think about it, everything that you do is a trained condition response. We as human beings are creatures of habit, patterns, over and over and over again. Rarely do we see the outlier event. Even when there's this massive blow up between husband and wife, pattern. We're creatures of habit. And so, to meet our needs proactively going forward, it's important for us men to understand why we are the way we are. Why do we react that way? Why do we feel a certain way? Why do I get defensive, right? Why do I tell stupid lies? Why do I project mother onto my wife? Why am I like and feel like a little child all the time? Well, those feelings are conditioned. Those feelings, that projection of mother, the punishment, bad boy, is in part traced back to your childhood. Everybody has an origin story. Why we do what we do, the good, the bad, the ugly. That environment had a massive impact. So it's important to understand that so you can react better going forward. To know thyself be true, to understand why you react a certain way, and not beat yourself up and shame yourself, and stuck in that circle of making things worse. No, like, oh, I know why I react that way, and I know what's underneath that, and so now I can meet my needs proactively. So here we go. Child maltreatment currently encompasses 4 categories: physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and neglect. A child in the Journal of Child Abuse and Neglect evaluated these definitions, and they found that emotional abuse is so vague. What does it mean? And it kind of focuses on the victim, how his experiences were received. It doesn't say anything about the perpetrator. And so they knew that verbal abuse was impactful here. So the nature of childhood verbal abuse involves behaviors that can be detrimental to a child's well-being, such as belittling, shouting, and threatening. You can discipline, you can be loud, you can be firm, you can be stern, but you don't have to belittle, you don't have to threaten, right? So, in these actions, and listen, look this up, have a lasting impact throughout a child's life, creating underlying emotional and physical repercussions, including increased risk of anger, depression, substance abuse, self harm, and obesity. Data from the World Health Organization has found that emotional abuse is now the most prevalent form of child maltreatment, ahead of physical and sexual abuse. Let me say, yay, right? Like, thank God, that physical and sexual abuse is dropping, that those numbers are dropping. But that doesn't mean emotional abuse isn't massively impactful, because it is. So, but the researchers found the term emotional abuse ambiguous and focused on the victim, whereas childhood verbal abuse zeroes in on the actions. And this onus could be a starting point for prevention, were to be made a subtype in its own right. So, anyway, enough about that. But here's the reality. Here's the reality, that it is impactful. And one of the ways that guys and partners too can appreciate that impact, because it's really hard, guys, right? For us to do that depth work. Anybody who's in it knows, right? Those walls are really, really high. It is not natural for us to feel. The default switch is compartmentalization, is not feel. Like conceal, don't feel. That's us. That's men. It's why the loneliness epidemic is impacting worse. It's why so many men, you get it, right? You get it. And so I just want to say to the guys who um, say nothing happened to me because I was only screamed at, here's the perspective, here's the technique. And that may be true. I'm not challenging you on that. I have no idea. But here's the technique. And this technique changed my life. I call it the switcheroo. Oh, I just had a deep breath thinking about that. So, one of the things that happened to me was I was never able to forgive myself because I rode my bike over the boy's house who touched me, who I was involved in a sexual relationship with as a child. I rode my bike over there. And who does that? Sick boys, disgusting boys, worthless boys, garbage, dirty, shameful. So I never could forgive myself because I said, I rode the bike over. I kept riding over. I did that. I chose that over and over again, right? Completely oblivious to the impact of what was going on. But I digress. And so I said, all right. I remember hearing that voice, you rode the bike over there, you worthless piece of crap. And I said, okay, yeah, let's think about that. Let's focus on that bike. Let's pay attention only to that bike. And so I meditated on that bike. And as I did, and as I pictured it, I realized that it was a bike with a banana seat, right? And every boy knows you don't go banana seat, mountain bike, 10 speed, dirt bike, whatever that leap is, back to banana seat. Right? You might go back there as an adult because they got some cool banana seat bikes, and my brothers listening know what I'm talking about, but that's not what we're talking about. How young must I have been when I rode my bike over there? And I realized, okay, so when did I have the banana seat bike? I was around 11 at the time. And I had that bike for a few years, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then I imagined, just something hit me. Like I pictured, like, oh, I was so young riding that bike. And I pictured my son riding that bike. And that was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So, and in that moment, when I imagined my son on that bike, I instantly was able to forgive myself. Instantly, I was able to let go of just whatever I needed to let go of. So the technique is the switcheroo. So if you're struggling to evaluate the impact of verbal abuse, imagine and do this like meditation, right? When it's safe to do so, and if you feel good enough to do so. But you can just imagine, right? You look out the window and you see someone yelling at your child the way you were yelled at. And you imagine you're looking out the window as a father and you see someone in that child's face screaming at them and telling them what a worthless piece of shit they are. Whoa, wait a minute. 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 And so I heard in my head, Nate Dogg, and it went, hold up. And I was, whoa, massively impactful. Massively impactful. Here I was shaming that kid. I need to be loving that kid. And so that's what I want you guys and partners to imagine if you're struggling with your root cause work with your therapist, if you're struggling to better understand why you do what you do, imagine I was just yelled at. Imagine how you'd feel if you saw someone yelling at your child like your mother or father yelled at you. And imagine it, day after day after day. And it's not to dishonor our mother and father at all. I think it's honoring them because they want what's best for you. And understanding the impact of those experiences is a wonderful thing, is a beautiful thing that can help you meet your needs proactively, as Rob writes in the chat correctly, going forward because you understand yourself better. You know why you react that way. You know why the walls are up. You know why you feel like a child when your wife is sharing her pain, and yet you feel like a demeaned little kid. You understand why that power dynamic is there. You understand why you're projecting mother onto your wife. You don't feel like an equal partner. And so that's the value of the root cause work. It's important, it's absolutely critical. And if anyone is listening and they say to themselves, nope, nothing to see here, I promise you find the right provider. Maybe it's me. You will better understand the impact. There's always an impact, and that has been my experience. Are there people out there in the universe where that's not the case? I'm sure. I just haven't met them. All right. So that's it for today, everybody. Do that switcheroo technique when it feels good to do so. Try to better understand yourself. And if you need more help, visit our website, mindfulhabithelp.com. You can check out our different programs. And I hope it's on the website. We have a new mindfulness program, guys. It's literally, I think, $9 a month. And it is the best mindful meditation. Anyway, I'll see if I can put that in the chat. Thank you so much for listening. Love you all. Keep feeding the right wolf and embrace your power of choice. Make it great, everyone. Bye-bye.